美国欠下的债，最终谁来买单？摩根大通 CEO 戴蒙给出的答案并不乐观。他说，债务危机不是会不会发生，而是什么时候发生。而大多数人到时候都会措手不及。
You mentioned government deficits there, and it's obviously not just a US problem at all. It's certainly a UK problem, French problem, Japanese problem. I guess, how high on the list of risks is that for you? And do you think it's a problem that we will solve calmly over 5 or 10 years before it catches up with one of those countries?
Global deficit, debt to GDP is 100%. Ours is 100%, Europe on average is 100%. I think you guys are not quite 100%, maybe a little bit over. And your deficit is less, ours is 6%, the world's deficit is almost 5%. These are very high debt numbers and very high deficit numbers, and we're actually doing quite well. Usually you have to have like a great recession or a depression to have, or a war to have numbers like that. So my view is it will become a problem. It's better we deal with it maturely and sit down, and we tried years ago with Paul Ryan and President Obama, but form a group, come together, acknowledge the problem, and come up with a solution. That would be the far better way to do it. The other way is to wait for it to become a problem, and my guess is that's what's going to happen. And that'll exhibit itself with, higher interest rates, the market getting rattled a little bit, people talking about constantly, remember the bond markets, the bond vigilantes, hopefully not worse than that, but it could be worse than that.
So at the moment, long-dated government bonds, would you be a buyer of those?
But personally, no. I think, I know the inflation numbers were good yesterday. And again, the other thing about numbers, you dig into these numbers, really dig into them, and I wouldn't give them too much credence. They kind of have some consistency month by month, but the actual numbers themselves, I think Kevin Warsh is right to say, let's look at how all these things get calculated, and which ones react to, and how you weigh and balance them. I would not be a buyer, and part of it is interest rates, inflation. Even if inflation was 2%, the 10-year bond should probably be at 4 to 4.5. And the short rate should be, at 3.25 or 3.5. And they're almost there today. So I don't understand what the upside is, even if you think inflation could go to 2%. Over 3% for almost 5 years. And, went up to 4 now recently because the gas price coming down. It may very well tick down. But, being an economic historian, I can't take out of my mind what happened, after the Great Recession of 74. Deficits were less. Guns and butter, because the Vietnam War was over, was away. And it climbed, from 3.5% to 5% to 7% to 9% to 11%. And you could say, well, oil is a big component. There was the oil crisis of 73 and then 80. Yes, that is true. Or, unions were more powerful. All these reasons, but it didn't stop.